I'm going to start with this sentence, which might seem inappropriate, yet it's true, and you will understand why. Be grateful for your suffering every day. You can express gratitude for your suffering because it's a grace that guides you back home. God creates suffering for you to discover a place where suffering doesn't exist. In this video I will explain how to find this place and see that whole existential suffering is an illusion. There is a way to see this illusion with clarity. But first we need to understand if we truly exist as this separate self. What are we fundamentally? What truly is suffering? Is it real? I would say, is it tangible, and how does suffering work? So we construct an individual sense of self, referred to as the ego, which is not our true self. It constantly oscillates between the past and the future. We often believe this false self to be real, and from this egoic perspective, suffering ensues. So suffering is caused by the lingering focus of awareness on the psychological mind, which generates resistance to what is, through negative and incessant thoughts, or towards the physical body with its perceptions or emotions, often triggered by past negative experiences, trauma or loss during this human existence. It's as if awareness is constantly under tension, focused on inner manifestations, which prevents you from experiencing a total rest, and creates resistance to what is actually happening now, creating more suffering. This in turn leads you to daydream and believe that this illusion is real, when in fact it's entirely false. And you can observe all these inner agitations. Therefore, if you can observe thought patterns, emotions, physical energetic contractions, it simply signifies that you are not them, because if you could see them, it implies that they are merely objects and not the subject. Because what you are more fundamentally cannot be seen. So suffering is caused by truly believing that you are the thinker, that you are this separate sense of self in this illusory inner story created by the mind. This whole story we imagine about ourselves getting through the world and trying to solve problems. So we live in this sort of whirlpool of thoughts, which makes you feel somehow unrested. The mind is so tense, especially in our Western minds, so full of thinking, and we get caught up in our thoughts and follow our thoughts because most of them seem incredibly important. There are things we've got to do, things we've got to work out, tasks we might need to take care of. In fact, most of our thoughts, if you examine them, they are attempting to solve problems which don't actually exist and probably never will. But eventually, by observing them with total detachment and defocusing on them, you will realize that you are not the thoughts. You are not the emotions. You are not the perceptions. They all constantly appear within you, within consciousness, and you are consciousness itself. And to experience your true nature, it's said that we must release and redirect awareness onto itself, rather than being focused solely on inner manifestations. By the way, I made an entire video about this practice. And at the end of the day, you can create space, distance from these manifestations. It's as if you can find within yourself a space where everything is welcome. And this space is unaffected by anything that happens in this human experience. everything is wholly accepted without resistance. And you are already this infinite space, but it's as if it was covered up by the tense mind. And what you truly are has been forgotten, but it's still here, it's familiar, and you can feel it because it's prior to everything and it encompasses everything. And when the whirling of the mind ceases, then you can rest within yourself and experience your true nature. And suddenly you may find yourself telling, "Oh, is that simple? Is that easy? How could I have missed it?" And I think we all miss it because of our way of seeking is looking for something else. The mind becomes focused. You are looking for something. The mind and awareness become tense, which is the opposite that just letting the mind totally relax. Letting awareness totally release. It's letting go of everything. And when you let go of everything, liberation reveals itself. There is this sense of nowness that arises. There is a sense of emptiness that takes place, leading to the end of the separate sense of self and at the same time the end of suffering.